And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan, and this is your Alaska Aviation Weather Outlook on this Thursday, July 31st, 2025. And to set things up, this outlook will be for Friday and Saturday, but as we're looking at things on Thursday, we still have this low pressure down along the Gulf North Pacific interface, and another spoke or trough arm of energy and moisture is going to rotate through the panhandle later tonight and on Friday, and then pull back towards South Central for late Friday night and the day Saturday. So we have more areas of rain and rain showers going to kind of retrograde toward the west and northwest here early in the weekend. Meanwhile, high pressure is building out along the west side of the state up into the Canadian Arctic coast. So especially throughout the Yukon Valley, sunshine, warmer temperatures getting back up in the 70s coming up for the weekend. And then out to the west, we've had a couple low pressures lifting northward across the Aleutians, and low pressure residing in this area of the Bering Sea. We're going to have a front coming eastward with a band of showers and some breezier conditions. So that's what's going on over there. And then eventually, by early next week, late this weekend, Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, there's going to be a cold front coming down out of the Arctic Ocean and pushing here along the Chukchi and Beaufort Sea coast, bringing some showers and cooler temperatures. So looking at Friday afternoon, could be an isolated thunderstorm along areas of the Alaska Range, 40-mile Gold Country, upper Tanana Valley, south side of the Alaska Range, Talkeetna Mountains, southeast facing slopes. Otherwise, there could be some MVFR conditions, inner coastal mountains and northern parts of the Panhandle along Copper River Basin, Yakutat, the Kenai Peninsula, Lower Cook Inlet, because again, there are going to be some area of rain showers that are pulling back to the west. Meanwhile, IFR conditions, lower stratus clouds and some fog extending from Utqiagvik down to the Lisburn Peninsula through the Bering Strait. Widespread IFR conditions over much of the Bering, St. Matthew, St. Paul, the Aleutian chain, because of that warm, moist air coming northeastward with that low pressure and frontal system out there in the Bering. So for Saturday morning, here are IFR conditions. You get into the mountains, Copper River Basin back into the Chugach and eastern Kenai, all that moisture coming back toward the west. So it's going to be a wet day here along and south of the Alaska Range for Saturday. IFR conditions, northern panhandle expected, and then also some IFR conditions creeping northeastward toward Kodiak Island in advance of this front coming northeastward with added moisture. And then again, just widespread IFR conditions out there across the Bering and Aleutian chain, and then also lurking off of the Arctic coastline. And for Saturday afternoon, we find MVFR conditions, kind of a patchwork here within the Panhandle, out over the Gulf, more extensive. Pockets of MVFR across South Central, especially south side Alaska Range southward. Could even be an isolated thunderstorm in the vicinity of the Alaska Range on up again toward the upper Tanana, 40-mile Gold Country. And then back up along areas near off the coast there, Utqiagvik, some lower stratus and fog out over the Bering and Chukchi Seas. And then extending down here along the Alaska Peninsula, again, we have some moisture that's going to be trying to creep northeastward. So there could be IFR conditions, say around Chiknik and especially the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula. And then again, all across the Aleutian chain. Passes on Friday in the north at Anatuvik. And Adigan passes in the east central Brooks Range, VFR conditions expected. Coming down along the Alaska Range could be a period of MVFR Friday morning, becoming VFR with a small chance of a scattered shower, isolated thunderstorm developing within the vicinity of the pass on Friday. Same thing, rainy pass, some MVFR conditions early in the day giving way to VFR, but there could be a scattered shower or isolated storm develop within vicinity of the pass in the afternoon or evening. Same thing, windy pass, though maybe leaning more toward VFR for the day. Isabel may be able to hold on to drier conditions and just VFR conditions there on Friday. Mentasta Pass, little MVFR, especially the south entrance. Be generally, as you get down to where the Copper River Basin, you're going to run into MVFR throughout the day, and maybe an isolated to scattered shower thunderstorm developing in the vicinity of the pass in the afternoon. Same thing, Tanita Pass, generally VFR. the south side of the pass, MVFR, and perhaps an isolated shower storm developing in the vicinity of the pass, especially the north side, with some heating Friday afternoon. Portage Pass, MVFR conditions expected there throughout Friday, and then Chilkoot and White may see a brief period of IFR early Friday morning, giving way to MVFR. So looking at the freezing levels at the surface, you have to get out off the Beaufort Sea coast to find temperatures down near freezing. Otherwise, the pocket of cooler air aloft is still pretty high freezing level. I mean, above 6,000, less than 8,000 feet, because we have that low circulation. This low has been here all week long. It's gradually, finally going to be opening up and moving across the Panhandle Sunday. So it's going to take a little while, but we got one more notable wave rotating back to the north and west that's going to bring rainier weather along and south of the Alaska Range, including Cook Inlet, Anchorage Bowl, Copper River Basin. That's for late Friday night and Saturday, and then finally into Sunday night. That feature is going to spread more showers and open up coming across the Panhandle. Back to the west, we have a low circulation here, moist warm air streaming northeastward. So freezing levels above 12,000 feet across much of the Bering and as high as 14,000 feet south of the central Aleutians. So where we have this trough pulling back, we can find in any thicker cloud cover that's producing precipitation above 12,000 feet, Copper River Basin Friday, above 10,000 feet over the Gulf, because I showed you the freezing levels here are generally below 8,000 feet. And then out over here, with the low circulation, a pocket of a moderate icing potential above 14,000 feet west of St. Matthew, and then with the front that's working its way northeastward with some showers. Pretty high freezing level, so above 16,000 feet here, entering the lower Alaska Peninsula from the eastern Aleutians. And the upper level jet stream, we still have this big donut. It's the circulation, broad circulation with the low pressure along the North Pacific Gulf interface. Back to the west, another low circulation here in the Bering. And then 9,000 feet, 700 millibars. Notice the circulation is not as pronounced in mid-levels, so the system is weakening. And then back here across the Bering, there's a stronger field of winds at mid-levels. That's 9,000 feet, 700 millibars, in excess of 50 knots up here through the central Bering. Broad area of westerly winds coming across the Aleutians. So we have, for Friday, pretty widespread southerly winds coming up through the central northern Bering Sea, and then the wraparound of this low, here's the front. Winds are more westerly across the central Aleutians, up to 40 knots at 3,000 feet. We still have a little pocket of 30, 35 knot winds offshore of Sitka and outside of the northeastern Gulf Coast here in the Gulf, so that's a little more localized. And as a result, we would expect on Friday turbulence. There could be a little bit of isolated moderate turbulence off of the outer Panhandle coastline, surface to 6,000 feet. That could actually extend a little further out here into the water. And then back to the west, we have the broader, stronger circulation with that low in the central Bering. So moderate turbulence is likely across St. Matthew, St. Paul, the Pribilovs, lower Alaska Peninsula, all the way out through the Aleutian chain, surface to 3,000 feet, and then as you get closer toward the mainland and up the Alaska Peninsula, that moderate turbulence could be found surface to 4,000 feet on Friday.